After years of remaining silent, I've decided that it's important for me to tell my story. I held this secret for such a long time. I'm about to give a presentation to a room full of educators and policymakers. I'm feeling pretty nervous. I definitely have some fear of being judged. But the situation that I was in, I honestly felt that there was no escape.
Oh, it's Paul.
Hi there, cutie. I just thought you should know that I love you, you little cute booty. Mwah.
The decision to seek justice, it was difficult. I did really worry about whether I would have someone that would believe what I said. The story I will be telling for you tonight, it all started 25 years ago when I was in year 10 at school. It's what happened next that changed everything. My life is sort of busy. I have an 18-year-old daughter and my teenage son, as well as 2 young boys from another relationship that's just recently ended. My mum is also very unwell, so I'm caring for her a fair bit, as well as juggling, getting back into work. I need time to set up my computer, so at 10:40 probably. Just give me a few minutes.
I moved in with Sarah a few months ago. Considering what we've all been through as a family, I think we're relatively close, yes.
Okay, I'll just do it. Don't overwhelm me.
Mum and I have certainly been through a lot, and it's become a pretty complicated relationship.
Thanks.
There's definitely been some ups and downs and some, I guess, difficulties that we've had to work through together.
This is Hervey Bay, where I grew up. It's about 4 hours north of Brisbane. Mum's parents lived here, so she moved to, be closer to her support network, I suppose.
Sarah's dad wasn't involved in Sarah's upbringing at all.
So, yeah, it was a bit of a struggle.
I was always searching, always seeking who my dad was. I was trying to find where I fit into the world. So if you look over there, that's the hall that I very first started dance lessons. My dream was to be a dancer in a contemporary dance company.
I met Sarah when she enrolled in my dance school in Hervey Bay. She became an excellent dancer. She was dedicated, determined, and she definitely had a future in dance if she chose to.
Sarah and I met at the dance studio. She was sort of the star pupil of the dance school at the time, and then, from then on, we were best friends right throughout school. She did really well at everything she put her mind to.
I was pretty much a nerd. I think my year 8 report card was all straight A's. I just really loved school, and I always wanted to just do well and I suppose, make my teachers proud.
I remember at the beginning of year 10, a new teacher coming to Hervey Bay called Paul Grealy, and suddenly everything changed. There was definitely a buzz around Paul's arrival at the school with some of the students.
Paul's car was almost his trademark. He would park it out where all the students parked, and everyone knew that was Paul Grealy's car.
I do remember thinking, wow, he is cool, he is so fun. He had a vibe about him that made you feel almost like you were on his level in some way, that you were a friend.
Paul taught physical education. He was 31 years old. He was young-looking, charming. He didn't have the same boundaries that other teachers had.
Paul was giving me a lot of compliments about my abilities in gymnastics, and it made me feel really special. But as time progressed, I started to notice things. In gymnastics classes, there's obviously times where a teacher or coach would have to put their hands on you to help you do certain maneuvers. But it became so frequent that even me as a 15-year-old knew that he was deliberately trying to touch me in places that he shouldn't have been touching me. He'd say that I had a muscle bum and that he could see it through my school shorts. And I remember thinking it was completely scandalous in my head, but it also felt so good because he's an older man noticing little me. So I told him that I had a dance background, and he actually said to me he'd like to marry a dancer. I was imagining what that might look like in the future.
Sarah was going to school early to get extra coaching from Paul. I thought he had her best interests at heart, and he was there to help her.
Around the school, every conversation became about this Sarah and Mr. Grealy. There were things that were starting to be quite brazen or obvious at the time that he was doing.
He started coming to our, dance concerts and things like that to watch. I personally was very, very excited about him being there.
Man, I feel like a woman.
I couldn't believe that he turned up as a school teacher to an event with someone so underage. I didn't speak to Sarah about what was happening. She was secretive. I pulled Amanda aside and demanded for her to tell me what was going on.
And it wasn't just Jay. I had teachers at the school asking me to tell them what was going on with Paul and Sarah out of concern. I assumed there was something going on, but Sarah hadn't actually told me herself.
I think Paul really picked the perfect person in Sarah. She never really had a father figure in her life, and then having her mum there as well, equally as vulnerable. It was the perfect combination of vulnerable, and I think he knew that.
Sarah's mum, Deb, she's so shy, she's so quiet. It was almost like Sarah was the parent at times.
When my father passed away in August 2000, it was a really difficult time for me.
I remember that Paul actually sent flowers and a card to my mum to our house to sympathise with her.
And I just thought it was just so lovely that he'd thought about us. It was not long after that I started inviting Paul to dinner.
What did you think his intentions were, I suppose?
I guess I was thinking that he enjoyed spending time with us. He came across as a funny guy, good sense of humour.
That's why he was so appealing. He just was goofy and would play around with you and have jokes and things like that. It got to the point that I had really started to rely on seeing him every day. There was a day at the end of year 10 that I was homesick from school. I just sent him a text, one of those like, I envy you for you're a cutie type texts, and he said, I'll come over and bring some chicken soup. He also brought along a movie to watch. It was about a kid having the day off school.
This is my 9th sick day this semester.
I was playing music, and just as I went to turn it off, he came up behind me and just started kissing me on the back of my neck. And I just froze. I just remember thinking, I don't know what to do.
So I better make this one count.
He then had to almost physically move me around because I was just so frozen, and it kind of just ramped up very quickly.
Life moves pretty fast.
He worked his way into our hallway, which was obscured from any windows and things like that. He stood me back and just was staring at me, just looking me up and down with this just absolute look of lust.
I remember feeling scared and so out of my depth. He then took me into our bathroom and then made me get into the shower with him. And that is the first time I've ever seen, like, a man naked.
I really didn't feel like I was in control of my actions at all. I was 15 years old. I didn't even know how to do half of the stuff that he was wanting me to do with him. I just felt like this kid that he was directing my every move and every action, and I was just following along with, like, no clue.
If I get caught, I won't graduate.
That day and in the days and weeks after that, I was very confused. Like, I'd done something really exciting that, you know, none of my friends had done before. I didn't know if I liked some of the stuff. He had several conversations with me at various times that in no way could I tell anyone about this because he'd lose his job. We would get in trouble. He did drill into me a fair bit about it being a secret.
Students were noticing Paul's red sports car out the front of Sarah's house before and after school hours.
By this stage, the dinners were probably a weekly thing. You know, Mum was working and obviously had to go to bed at some point, and Paul would sort of stay, and then he'd use that opportunity, I suppose, to become physical with me again. Even though we didn't have vaginal sex until I was 16, it's like he got a kick out of pushing the boundaries and doing quite daring things. Paul quite quickly developed a nickname for me when he would do sexual acts with me, which was Cutie. He would say things like, "Oh, good job, Cutie."
You are such a show-off, Cutie. I love you.
It felt very much like I was a kid learning how to do something and being, you know, praised by my teacher.
So this is the art journal that I had in year 10. And you can see at the start, it's all fairly innocent and fun. You know, on this page here, you can see that Paul has obviously come into the picture, but it's still fairly fun and innocent and silly. But it's contrasted, I suppose, down the track of, you know, some of these images where I'm drawing about complex emotions and things that I'm trying to work through, like confusion and despair.
Sarah had really started to change by the end of year 10. She went from being really funny, really gregarious herself, probably the most confident person I know. Instead, she was becoming more and more isolated.
I was finding it really hard to juggle the huge secret. It was before the Christmas holidays of year 10. I had told my mum that things had become quite physical, and I think Mum didn't know how to deal with that.
I'm not really a person that would stand up to someone and say, you need to go. I'm just, But yeah, I do wish that I had been more assertive, and
I just was so desperate for you to step in and take that control out of my hands.
You probably, find it hard sometimes to understand why I didn't, and I can't explain why.
I do understand.
No, I don't, but I can't. I find it hard to believe that you can understand.
So at the end of year 10, it was during those holidays that I actually confronted her and said, "You need to tell me what's going on."
Yeah, I remember that Christmas holidays, and I ended up confessing to you about what was going on with Paul, and I think I was so desperate to tell you for such a long time. But at the same time, I was so worried that you potentially might say it to somebody else and, things
things would blow up for me and I'd get in trouble or whatnot.
I remember you just swearing me to absolute secrecy, like you were so desperate. And I did. I kept your secret because I knew at the time if I didn't, I would lose you even more.
At the beginning of Year 11, our English classes across the school did a time capsule project, questions about your future, and we, filled in those prompts and put them in an envelope and handed them to the school.
So some of the entries in my time capsule definitely allude to the fact that I'm holding some sort of secret at the time. I want to be able to be free and do what I please with who I please. And then this one, I wish that some things in my life were out in the open. I hate being behind closed doors. From the start of Year 11, Paul had been in my ear consistently about moving to Brisbane. He actually even spoke about getting me into this dance program in Brisbane. That was quite enticing to me because that's what I wanted to do. So when Paul transferred, I ended up packing up my stuff in the September school holidays and telling Mum that I was moving to Brisbane to go to the school. But that promise of me getting into the dance program wasn't actually a thing. And so I just enrolled into the local high school.
Sometime after Sarah left Hervey Bay, I was approached by one of the other teachers at the school, and she said to me, I know what's going on, and that's led me to open up Sarah's time capsule, and I've found some things in there that very clearly outline that there is something going on.
I actually had a phone call from Sarah who said that Paul had told her that I was going to receive a phone call from the Department of Education. It wasn't to say that there was a relationship happening. And so I said he was a family friend.
So yeah, even then we were, protecting him, I suppose.
I find it really difficult to forgive myself for not stepping in then, because I've seen what it's done to Sarah's life.
It's the night before. Dun, dun, dun! I'm Sarah Kopp, and I'm the bride.
I first met Sarah when she moved to Brisbane. In the 2 or 3 years after finishing high school, Sarah and Paul's relationship was very on and off. However, towards the end of 2005, she told me that she was pregnant with her first baby with Paul.
Yeah, it's in my belly. I'm feeling quite groomy.
Sarah was 20 years old. Her and Paul had plans to marry.
And I remember just being gutted, like this is going to continue on and she's totally, going to be under this guy's control from here on in.
Good night, Sarah Kopp. I'll see you when you're Sarah Grealy. I love you, cutie.
We were actually telling her at the time that she doesn't have to go through with this wedding.
How are you feeling?
I'm nothing. I'm excited, I guess.
You're neutral.
Neutral.
We were driving towards the venue and I just started panicking and I just started bawling my eyes out going, I don't want to do this.
You take Sarah to be your lawful wife.
Sure.
I was told, because I was doing a speech as the maid of honour, that I was not to reveal how Paul and Sarah's relationship started because everybody in the room was told a different story.
It's with great pleasure now that I introduce to you all Mr. and Mrs. Grealy.
From the start of the marriage, I felt like I had absolutely no power. I felt very small and like I didn't have a voice at all.
Here's my wife.
Paul would make comments about my appearance, that I was putting on too much weight and things like that.
Now have a look at that. Whoa, Wonder Woman.
So it just made me feel really self-conscious and, not great in my own skin. As I started to speak up for myself a little bit more, he would say that he misses the cute little girl who would wait at the front door for him until he got home. I think anyone looking in from the outside, the marriage would have looked fairly normal. It was far from that. There would have been arguments or hostility in the house multiple times a week.
Oh, you bit jealous, bitch.
Sarah and Paul lived with me during their marriage. Living with Paul, you had to walk around careful not to upset him because he was easily upset about things. He just, went off.
I would get quite angry and frustrated. Paul would often say that he felt that I had anger management problems, to the point that I eventually went and saw multiple psychologists. They actually reassured me that I didn't actually have anger management issues, that, the way that I was feeling and behaving was pretty consistent with being stuck in quite a toxic relationship. It took me a really long time to accept that my marriage wasn't right.
At the end of 2014, Sarah finally decided that she was going to break it off with Paul and leave him.
Once I left Paul, slowly but surely I started to set myself up on my own, and I decided to get back into university, which is what I had always wanted to do. I completed my master's in teaching so that I can teach dance to the next generation of students.
The more distance she got from him, it was like she was sort of processing in her own mind what had not just happened to her in the marriage, but from when she was 15.
I started to think about whether or not I should actually go and report Paul to the police for what he had done to me. He was still teaching, but there were also things that I suppose were holding me back a little bit. I suppose I felt some level of guilt because I felt somewhat complicit in it since I was 15 years old. People over the years had even made those sorts of comments about, it's not like I was a little kid or anything like that, and you start to really take on those viewpoints. Also, the fact that we got married and we had 2 children, that complicated things further. I guess I was worried about how the children might see their father, and I did worry that seeing their dad in that kind of light might affect their view on themselves. Ultimately, I decided that it was important for me to speak up. I wanted the children to know the difference between right and wrong.
I first met Sarah in 2018 when she attended at Ferny Grove Police Station in Brisbane, and she told me that she was there to report a sexual abuse from 17 years previously.
It was terrifying for me. It was probably the first time I'd really said my whole story to someone, especially, someone in your position.
I mean, it was so courageous for you to come forward and tell me your whole story. I know that's not easy for anyone to do at all.
Yeah, just felt like you listened to me and you completely took on board what I was saying.
Because of the level of detail that Sarah could give me about the offending and the supporting material that she brought, I was left in no doubt that she was very credible right from the get-go.
Yeah, I think I brought you my artbook, which I think I started it in grade 10.
Sarah was able to give me so much information that we were able to verify a lot of that information through additional witnesses. We arrested Paul Grealy in 2020 on a number of counts of indecent treatment and maintaining a relationship with a child. Upon his arrest, he did say certain statements, such as he believed that he was the victim in the whole case and that the reporting of the offence was malicious, basically.
She rang me basically as soon as Paul had been charged. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, I don't know, the ground opened up and I was like, whoa. The kids were kind of begging me to drop the charges, please, because Dad's going to go to jail forever. It just would have been so confusing for them and difficult for them to work through their thoughts.
I was shocked at first
Dad just told us just out of the blue, and he was scaring us, saying he was going to go to jail 14 years. Yeah, I was really worried for him, and I was worried for what would happen to our family. But when I turned 15 is when it basically all made sense, and I just realised how young and vulnerable that age is, and just, it's not right.
The trial didn't happen until the end of April 2024. Their argument was that I was 16 when the relationship started. So it was really, we were only arguing over a 6-month period of time.
The most important evidence of trial, without doubt, was Sarah's testimony and that of her mother.
I felt that this was the time that I could make amends, I guess, for not standing up for Sarah. It was my time to stand up and say, this is what happened, and yeah.
Our key witnesses were still able to recollect key events. So when the jury retired, I was reasonably confident that we had a very strong case.
I initially wasn't in the room when the jury was reading out the verdict. I was a bit worried about which way it would go.
And then when they read the first guilty, Sarah came running in, and we were all crying. Deb was crying, I was crying, because it was guilty, 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 guilty.
So many of the various charges came through guilty. I just burst into uncontrollable sobs, embarrassingly loud probably, actually.
But as they were delivering it, one of the jury members put her hand up on her heart and sort of, it was almost like, this is your validation, this is your moment.
Words cannot explain how that felt. It was just incredible.
When I look back on my story now, one of the hardest truths is that so many warning signs were there, visible, consistent, and escalating.
I think my role now is to use the horrible things that happened to me to actually create some good and change, to hopefully, protect future students from going through similar things.
Children disclose to adults they feel safe with. Be the adult who listens without judgment.
So recently Sarah came to me and she said to me, I want to start my own education platform. It's called Step In for Kids, because all it takes is for one adult to step in to change the trajectory of one child's life.
If just one teacher had asked me directly, are you okay? Is someone making you feel uncomfortable? In a safe, trusting way, I might have cracked. My entire life could have looked different.
Yeah.
You did such a good job.
This didn't just happen to Sarah when she was 15. The ripple effect that this has had on Sarah's life, Sarah's family, Sarah's career, that's going to be something that's a lifelong impact.
Sharon, that was wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
But I'm starting to see glimmers of the old Sarah.
I certainly feel like I am turning my life around. I'm building something that I'm so passionate about and that I think is such an important issue in society. And it's also something that my children can be proud of. And yeah, I'm just really hopeful and feeling so positive about what lays ahead.